welcome to the TCM Challenge, a monthly movie review podcast where Matt and I challenge each other to watch some classic films. This month's movie is A Terrible Mistake, and I'm Matt in Buffalo.
And I'm Matt in Arizona. And I just want to say, so far, we've had a pretty interesting journey in the sense that, the last 3 months, we've done some really either little known or well known but critically acclaimed films where we talked about nuance of performances, we talked about character motivations, we talked about depth and meaning and the message behind certain decisions that the character makes. So, what do you have in store for us this time?
Yeah,
Pray tell.
Yeah, joking aside, this one was 1958's, although I think it's 1957. There might be some disagreement on that. The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy. And I went into this eyes wide open.
That classic Library of Congress selected movie.
Yeah, or at least 15 minutes of this one plus, 45 minutes of other movies, but I think we can get into that one. So I think there's a little bit of an absurdity in a bit of the format here, because for every other episode we've kind of opened the discussion with a level setting, right? Like this came out in let's say 1957, because that's when I the consensus of the year is. We usually look at what the big movies were to see where our subject of discussion lines up. Obviously it doesn't really matter this month, but for the sake
I was gonna say you didn't look at what was the crap that released in the same year as this, like the other B movies.
no, so the comparison is for the Academy Awards it was Bridge on the River Kwai, maybe only the greatest drama ever created, 12 Angry Men,
Yeah.
right? The Henry Fonda one. So that's the kind of level of film we're talking about in this
May I
year
just
release.
interject? May I just interject as a lawyer? The best legal drama ever created, starring the jury that no lawyer ever wants to have.
12 angry white dudes. Yeah.
Well, no, but they do their own independent research. They do all the things that jurors are not supposed to do.
I mean, I'm resisting just talking about that movie, but name me, maybe this is an honest question. It could be our protagonist from this movie, whoever that was.
Uh-huh.
Name me a more heroic lead in a movie ever than Henry Fonda's character in 12 Angry Men.
God.
I mean, he's not storming a beach. He's not throwing a ring into Mount Doom. He's standing up for somebody going to death row when nobody else would, right? Oh my God, 12 Angry Men is a beautiful film.
Maybe Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird, but that's about it.
Okay. But I think we're talking kind of the same idea there, right? So
yeah, I mean Gregory Peck versus Henry Fonda. You're cutting from the same cloth,
right? So should we get into this one?
Yeah, let's. I mean, first of all, let's start off with something that I guess I wasn't aware of, but I guess I maybe should have been given the name of given the title of the movie. This is a piece of Mexican cinema.
Oh. Yes, it sure is a piece of something. Yeah, and getting into it, if it wasn't immediately clear, I don't know, man, did you do any research on this?
Well, it's funny. So, first of all, let me put my cards on the table. The way I watched this, I did not watch the movie by itself. I chose to watch the MST3K episode where they did this movie because I needed the riff tracks version to keep myself entertained.
And let me be equally honest here. Even though this movie came in at a brisk 65 minutes, I watched this on YouTube at 2x speed. And nothing was lost. Nothing.
Yeah. So yeah. I needed the commentary to get through it. So as I'm watching this, I'm like, we'll get into it as we talk about the movie, but what would you say? About a third of this movie's runtime is nothing but flashbacks?
Oh, no, more than that. But do you
Uh,
know the
and I was
reason
like, "Is this?"
why?
Well, yeah. I was when I was watching, it's like, "Is this a series?" And then I looked it up on Wikipedia. This is like part three of a three-part series.
Oh, and all direct continuity. And thankfully, you might wonder, like, going into this, like me doing all my prep work, oh, I need to watch those other two movies to understand this. No, you don't. Not remotely. Because the first, literally half of the movie, I clocked it. It was like 35 minutes before there was something I felt fairly confident was new footage for this movie. I might be off, but give or take,
I
35 minutes of the 65 is all flashback recapping the previous movie.
I mean, I couldn't tell because I mean, obviously, I didn't watch the previous movies, and I'm guessing you're telling me you didn't do your usual deep dive Criterion collection where you research a bunch of crap outside of the movie that we watched and watch the other
No,
two.
but I will tell you what's miffed me. The part of my, like, getting into this was I was going to buy physical media for everything we watch. So I bought like a DVD of this. When it's free on YouTube, I know it. I got the DVD and I put it in, and it's obviously just some dude's printing, freely available out of protection stuff out of his basement. And the quality of the DVD transfer was significantly less than the free YouTube version of it. But I
So
got my
tell
DVD of this.
tell me, did like the disc that came with this, was it marked in Sharpie?
No, the guy had enough dignity to actually print the discs. So there's, again, free, well, nobody's prosecuting, I'm sure, artwork on there. But
No,
you get
I'd be
it.
surprised if this wasn't somehow public domain by now.
Oh, I'm sure it all is. Who's alive in this to extend the protections on it. But the one
And
thing, so
as we talk about it, who would want to extend the protections on it is the question that we should ask by the end of this episode.
oh yeah. So the one thing, like, I was really upset about after I read about this is in movie 2, The Revenge of the Mummy, I don't know, the Aztec Mummy. There is a whole subplot in there with a luchador superhero, a mask wearing
Yeah,
superhero, and that is completely edited out of the flashbacks.
yeah.
Like, what the
Like
hell?
I read because I tried to like read to see what important plot points I was missing from this film,
None.
and yeah, like the guy who it's the angel, right? Like if I remember
Yeah.
correctly, the guy who calls himself the angel. Um, and it's this assistant that's that the assistant is in the flashbacks, but him as his alter ego is not in the flashbacks.
I guess it would raise too many questions to people coming in to see this for about the backstory. Maybe. I don't know. But I all I know is this movie could have benefited from a mass superhero luchador in it. It just would.
Well, I mean, you would think that the title of two things fighting would be enough to sustain, but we'll get into it. But that's basic. That's basically the last 5 minutes of the movie.
No, I clocked it. It's the last 3 minutes of the movie, man. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So, backstory on this: I picked this because age is back. I'm a huge Mystery Science Theater fan. I had watched this, but it's like first season where they're still trying to find their footing in MST3K. So, like the cadence of the jokes, the sharpness of everything, it's a little loose. So I don't go back to revisit. So I'm like, okay, I remember this being a goofy movie. Let's watch it. So actually, leading up to this, I came across and I was watching another one of these Mexican movies called the Brainiac. Another just forgotten thing. And it was better. It had more stuff going on at least, but it was all dubbed again. And I thought, and it had goofy, insane dubbing in it. And I thought for a moment, at least there's going to be a little bit of fun in the dubbing of this because of that outrageous announcer that starts out the movie in his one line reading where he goes the in the University of Los Angeles. I just could listen
I
to that
forgot
part
that.
over and over again. Oh, it's in the first 15 seconds of the movie, and then there's quite a
Yes,
hell of a
I mean,
lull
I
for a long
remember.
time.
I remember it now that you talk about it, but I completely forgot that that opening narration was there.
So I was at least going like, okay, maybe we'll at least get some of that insane, like, um, Japanese monster movie subtitle, or dubbing. No, they're playing it pretty straight, which is just like, well, there's one more like kitsch, ironic bit of enjoyment that is robbed from the movie. But
Hmm.
okay, so anyhow, we you get this absurd voiceover saying that this is based in true and like fact, but it's a little exaggerated. Like, okay, sure, let's get
A
into it.
little.
Right, and then you go into what was it? The actor's name is Ramon Gay, who, by the way, was
Hmm.
murdered by a co-star in real life
Are you
because of
serious? Well,
love.
I didn't.
Yeah, because of
I didn't
love
look up.
triangle.
I did not
Yeah,
look up the history of the actors. But where's that movie? I want to see that movie.
I don't know. Like that's the thing. It's like I was a little stretching for content, and I'm really
Hmm.
stretching later in this episode as we'll get to that. But yeah, I mean, he was just shot down because he's like a handsome dude. He kind of was in a bunch of these crap horror movies. He maybe could have had a career to him, but robbed it of that in his prime, I guess. But anyhow, he's invited over a bunch of, I guess, academics. Another funny thing where I was hoping there'd be more of this, but there really wasn't. When those other stuffy academics come in, it's just like a throwaway line. One of them says, "Yes, I'm doing research on how to make people die peacefully." Again, what? What? Why? And then it's just rolled past, and we never address that again. So just like more things. Okay, are there going to be like weird, like what's that Woody Allen movie where he redubbed a Japanese film with just like
Oh,
crazy stuff? Tiger
I
Lily,
can't.
something like that.
Some What's Up, Tiger Lily? I
Yeah.
think.
Or like, is there going to be a little bit of fun? No. So okay, we're past that. And then the other funny thing is, I think some of these actors are in the flashbacks. So it's our main
Yeah, they
protagonist.
are.
Yeah, he's relaying a lot of stuff that they were part of to him. So the first part, phase one of the flashbacks, is recapping the first movie, where they just basically tell the story of uh, Popaca, I think is
Yeah.
the titular mummy, Aztec mummy. Let's get past the fact and acknowledge that mummification was not an Aztec ritual, but
No.
details. Um, he fell in love with a, princess, whatever, love affair, pretty much the cliched mummy story,
I was gonna say this is like straight out of Brendan Fraser Mummy.
which is straight out of the original mummy
I
movies,
know.
right? So it's like, okay, tropes, mummy thing, fine, we'll go for it. But they do have a very, well, again, how can anything be very extended? But just like a boring drum sequence of him being killed, basically,
Yeah. Well,
in
not only that,
sacrifice.
like it's a long drawn out drum sequence, but we drop in the middle of this that this came about out because the guy hypnotized his wife, and it turns out that in the past life she was this woman who fell in love with this guy who's going to be the mummy. And it's about when I started hearing this stuff, I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, this has to be a serial and like a sequel or something because this is a huge ass information dump.
Yeah, and this movie has it's like it's the hallmark that exists still to this day of bad movies. Look at any of those riff track movies of just like driving and walking. You don't need to show people driving and walking a ton. This movie is of the 65 minutes. This is why you lose nothing watching it at 2x. Edit out the people walking around and just milling about. This movie's 35 minutes long
Yeah.
because it's by the way, the actor who had to pick up the princess as they're sacrificing her, ooh, she dead weighted that. He was huffing and puffing trying to carry her around, but that's beside the point. So, and it's like, I think it's a thing in the old movies where there's like, this isn't like the 19 teens. Movies aren't a novelty. You can move things around. Just seeing people walking about drumming isn't all that exciting. I'm
Or
sorry.
at least
Let's move this about.
if you're gonna have slower scenes, make them have a purpose that pays off later.
Right. And so, mummified, blah, blah, blah. Who could give a crap? You cut to, even though it's being actively narrated by the people in it, I am already lost And
Oh
again, I
yeah.
don't attribute this to the 2X. Who are these people and why are they in this cave or ruins or whatever bumbling about? Already checked out what the hell is going on. And again, just the absurdity, the inherent absurdity of a guy relaying the story to the people who were there.
I
And I'm
mean,
still confused.
I just assumed that whatever hypnotist shit that they pulled on the wife said that it was buried with some treasure, so they all decided to go play Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
That's
I
why I
mean,
think they're in the cave. That's basically it.
yeah. I mean, cliched city, just, getting the mummy stuff. So, a couple bits of like non ironic praise in this movie. The mummy, I don't think is actually that bad. It's a bit of a different take. It's not all the wrapped up one. It looks like a decent desiccated person.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not really a mummy in the sense of like a wrapped mummy. It's like a decayed corpse. It's almost like a
Yeah.
zombie.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll take
yeah,
it.
it's okay. I mean, it's adequate B level makeup job.
Yeah. So that's something. They have their first encounter. The mummy bumbles about. And then my first, excuse me, first. The next in the series of this is I didn't, I didn't know crosses defeated mummies.
I don't know, but this is a piece of Mexican cinema. Catholicism reigns supreme down there, so I guess that wins out.
One true God, right?
Hmm.
Because it implies like, well, the mummy would have no idea. Well, may have no idea what the cross signifies.
No.
Why would it have power? So whatever. Again, if we're gonna, if we're gonna do this, might as well overthink these things. And then we're pretty rapidly introduced to the bat, where again I was wondering like, did we skip a whole bunch of shit explaining who the bat was? Well, yeah, we skipped two movies, but
Hmm.
it's just instantly there's this guy, which by the way, I'll point out this is now I think the second movie where there's an Orson Welles lookalike. I thought this guy looked like a bit of a chubby Orson Welles.
Yeah. No, a totally agree. Definitely looks like a chubbier Orson Welles. No disrespect to Orson Welles, but also too
Rest in
like
peace.
the thing that threw me off too was like I guess like they transitioned to the second movie while they're still in the same place because they're just all wandering around this cave for the next 15 minutes, and I guess part of it's from the first movie and part of it's from the second movie.
Yeah, it seems like the first movie was just pretty simple. We go find this mummy, we have an interaction. Somebody sacrifices himself to blow up a bomb in the chamber, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, rapidly we're deep into the second movie where the evil scientist, nicknamed the Bat, has, evil intentions.
Hmm.
You know,
Why we
he's
don't
up.
know, but
No. What they are either, not entirely clear.
I guess to
So
get rich.
yes, but that's just a means to an end. As it's
I don't.
later found out, he wants the mummy's jewels to fund him making more robots,
Hmm.
I think. Right? I
Well,
don't know.
we have to get to the robot eventually, which isn't introduced until probably the last 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah, that's clocking in around the 10-minute mark. So, in this, the bat kidnaps our protagonist and the angel and is holding them captive only to have the mummy come in and wreck up the joint, right? And again, this is told in flashback. It wouldn't have been any more coherent, I'm sure, in the original version. But I just again got a kick out of the mummy obviously flinching at gunfire. He's stumbling about, tripping over chairs because he can't see shit through his mask, and
Right.
it's just all in the movie. It's all there, but he just basically slaps people to death. One of the bumbling fools drops acid on his face, which we later find, melts him up a bit. And then the mummy picks up the bat and throws him into a pit of snakes.
Yeah, that's the one thing I remember from that flashback.
That's
And
why
yet he
you
still lives.
Yeah, but that's why you don't keep your pit of snakes open, right?
Hmm.
Rattlers. So the mummy just fucks off back to the cave or whatever. Oh, actually, no. For the plot, let's get this right. The mummy just disappears.
Yeah.
Right. So somewhere in here is where we now transition, and this is somewhere around the 30-minute mark where I'm pretty sure we're out of rerun town into air quotes new footage. Right. So this is now where it kind of takes over again of like somewhere in here they find that the bat didn't die in his pit of rattlers. There was just a very obvious door out of it. He just got up and walked out.
Yeah.
Right. So this is now where a bunch more of just the eye rolling 1950s cliche hypnotism comes in of just boy, hypnotism was a thing back then, wasn't it?
And apparently, like, it makes you do just everything. Makes you do
I,
anything.
oh yeah, anything. So the bat is now out in his car and is via telepathy. I
Yeah,
don't
that's the
know.
other thing is I don't think, okay, so I mean, he's outside of the car, outside of the house where he hypnotizes the wife to take them back to the cave. Was that it?
So at this point, unfortunately, I do understand this story to a degree. The mummy's fucked off with the
Uh-huh.
jewels, right? And due to plot, the wife, due to maybe her past life connection, has some sort of a connection to Popeka, and they intuit that she'll be able to lead them to the Popeka, right? So the idea is let's hypnotize her or reactivate her hypnosis. She again incredibly slowly walks down the stairs, comes out, gets in the car, and, basically leads them to a cemetery. Where, by the way, we're now introduced to my favorite character of the movie, the night watchman of the cemetery, who is cliched Mexican,
Yeah.
right? And
He's the one
we,
that gets burned later, right?
oh my god, yes, he is. But
Okay.
let's not get ahead of ourselves. I had two true non-ironic laughs here, just guffaw laughing. So this party of riffraffs is the zombified wife who's hypnotized, the bat, and the bat's goon who you have him. He's wearing his duster, right, and he's
Hmm.
holding it up over his face in the most cliched 1940s gangster thing you can imagine, and the cliche city uh, night watchman comes up and he goes, "Who goes there?" Burnt face man just quietly walks around him and then blackjacks the shit out of him. And
Yeah,
I
that's
just
right.
started,
I forget.
I
Yeah.
just started laughing my ass off. I'm like, "Oh, that's great! Just brain this poor dude." And you find it's the burnt face guy, right? Which again,
Hmm.
I think the black and white photography, I think is like forgiving of crappy makeup.
Yeah,
So the mummy is
for sure.
decent. This burnt effect on his face, it's not bad, right? So they go in a little mausoleum thing, and lo and behold, the mummy's just there, right? And then it begs
Chilling.
the question, yeah, just not doing anything, not causing any ruckus, just laying there with the jewels. And it just begs the question, why don't they just burn the shit out of him?
Because that would save us 30 more minutes of movie.
Oh no, I think around this time it's a good 20. Something like that. We're
That would,
moving
but that
along
would
at a
that would
good
that would
clip
cheat
now.
us out of the major battle, the titular battle of this film.
Okay, but you reminded me. 3 good laughs later. So here is where I think we're introduced to the schemes of the bat, right? So he sees there all the money that's going to come from these, which we did get a good look at yet, but we do get a look at later, is the flimsiest bit of, I guess, gold. I don't know, basically aluminum foil.
I was gonna
I'm
say
sure
it
it
looks
might
like
not even
those.
have been gold.
No, you know what I was gonna say. It looks like those. You know those. gold coins that are like chocolates. It looks like one of those.
Yeah, but left out in the sun a little bit.
Yeah,
But so I guess the scheme here is, ooh, all this money's just at like just right there for the taking, but this mummy will stop me. So the plan the plan is, how do we defeat the mummy? Well, of course we're going to make a robot to defeat it
naturally.
naturally. And okay, so they just go back. And they go back and they let the wife go back home. And this is where we're just padding this to just like, oh my god, how do we get this movie over 60 minutes? Well, what? There's no more footage we can use. Okay, so let's introduce just a
I
weird
just
little mystery element to this.
well, here's where I had some of my, I mean, totally ironic laughter, which was the next morning, the wife gets up and is just like, "I don't feel well. My nightgown is all dirty. My feet are all muddy. That's weird." Back to
And,
bed.
and the kid is like, and she's like in denial the next day when she's confronted by the husband, right? Like, I never want to get caught by my secret shame of sneaking out to get tacos at night, but she's in denial of, you know, I didn't go out. And like the daughter who, oh yeah, I guess there's kids in this. She's like, no, mommy, I heard you, mom, wandering about. You snuck out. And it's just like the husband and I don't know, this other dude who's with him who may or may not have been the angel. I don't know. They're like, obviously there's a mystery here that we need to solve. So they get all NCIS on this. They get her
Hmm.
slippers, take it to the laboratory, excuse me, the laboratory to do analysis on the mud. And, hashtag science,
Hmm.
a scientist identifies marble pieces. These must be ipso facto from a cemetery.
Well, of
And I'm like,
course.
ay, 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 okay, sure. So, uh,
The question though is like, at this point, do you want the movie to be longer? Of course, yes. It's from the cemetery. Yes, move it along.
and they at least again throw in a little bit of dialogue where it's like, of all the shortcuts, nonsense, garbage in this, they at least had the sense to go like, this is the last cemetery. We've been checking all cemeteries all day. This is the last one. And they find the mummy. I mean, there you go, done. So, there it is. Cut to, I guess, like we're just rapidly going through this. We might be
Well,
hitting
just
literally
because
every scene.
because I mean, first of all, let me just explain to whoever's listening right now that if this makes no sense to you, us describing it, trust me, watching the movie doesn't make it make any more sense. Like
Oh no,
we're doing the best that we can. Number one, number two, we're blazing right through this thing because as interminably long as this felt, it's only clocks in barely over an hour, and nothing happens for about 30 minutes. So
again, my version was about 32 minutes, but that's beside the point. So this is where again it cuts to the robotics laboratory. I think there was a time jump here of maybe years. I don't know, right? Because there was,
I, I don't. The timeline of this. At some point, though, they end up in the robotics laboratory where I never want to hear anyone. Because I happen to be a huge fan of like the James Bond series, and I never want to hear anyone complain about villain monologuing in a James Bond film again because this goes on way longer and way more worse than any of those Bond villains.
I just love like again just the absolute just nonsense of this. Like I guess they couldn't afford one of those Jacob's ladders with the lightning thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so they just had the bat mixing, vials of fluids because that's what
Goo.
robot
Yeah.
scientists do. So at this point, you have, I guess, they're trying to invoke Frankenstein here because this
I
is where So again, one thing we skipped over here was he did a fair amount of grave robbing because if we're being technical, this isn't a robot; it's an android.
It's a cyborg.
Cyborg. Oh, cyborg. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. You're right. It's the shittiest robot.
Well, you know what?
Boxy nonsense with a human head on top of it in
Well,
a
you know,
bucket.
it's funny because I mean, you and I. So, for those of you who may not know us from years back, Matt and I met when I was doing a Star Trek Voyager podcast called "The Delta Quadrant."
Uh,
And fans of Voyager may know: does this or does this not look like Satan's robot with a head in it?
well,
From the from
yes,
the from the cap from the Captain Proton series, I mean.
but far worse.
Oh yeah, far worse, but that's what this
Right.
reminded me of in
Oh,
appearance.
yeah, but just so much shittier. So much shittier. It's and then we're subjected to what again, this is what I think is they're just desperately trying to be their Frankenstein moment, right? The it's alive. But we
Which takes
don't
forever
have
for
that.
the well, we don't have it because it takes fucking forever for the thing to actually get up.
Yeah, I mean, who needs, gorgeous gothic imagery and crashing thunderstorms and, good melodramatic acting when you can just have a whole bunch of rapid edits with static shots of big dumb faces? Because that's what this was. Again, go back to it just, and again, well, maybe I'll give it a fourth laugh.
I was
Laughing,
only. Go ahead.
go
Sorry.
on. Just the fourth laugh is me laughing at the bat's dumb face, just staring, like
I know.
looking at
Well,
nothing happening.
I was cracking up during this scene, but that's mostly because even though it was their second episode, the commentary from the MST3K guys at this scene was gold. It was the
I
one
did
thing
not go
keeping
back
me
and
entertained.
rewatch. I did not go back and rewatch, right? Because I didn't want to accidentally steal any jokes or anything like that. But yeah, I need to go back and just like palate
But this whole
cleanse
time,
after all this.
I'm looking at just a head inside of a robot body, and I just think of I'm just thinking to myself, God, I wish I was watching RoboCop 2 right now
Oh
because
my
that's what
god, I
this
was going to make
reminds
the
me of.
same comment. Oh yeah, same comment. Which Pluto TV has been showing both of those constantly. Hot take: RoboCop 2 might be better than one.
I don't know if it's better, but I will say RoboCop 2 deserves way more respect than it's given. It's a
I like
darn
it a
good
lot.
sequel.
I like it a lot. I'd rather be talking about that. So, okay, now they're off to see the wizard here, right? Oh, by the way, the robot's powered by some horse shit radiation, whatever,
Oh,
and controlled
they
by.
kept talking. They kept talking about radiation, and I didn't get what they were saying. Is that what it was? It's controlled by radiation.
It's nuclear powered something, right? It's neither here nor there. In fact, like it maybe should not have been a thing, but whatever. And it's controlled by
And
a big chunky remote control
well,
that
whatever
the
it
bat
is,
controls, obviously.
it only causes this thing to move about 3 millimeters at a time. And don't
Oh
worry, they're going to
well,
make you watch the whole walk to the cemetery.
well, if it went any faster, the son of a bitch would shake itself apart. I'm sure. So now we get to the biggest laugh of the movie
Yeah,
because
for sure.
the the night watchman has dusted himself off. He's back at it again. He did not learn his lesson and he confronts the robot. And the robot puts up its claw and oh my god, it zaps the living shit out of him. He turns to like there's smoke emanating from him and you get this hilarious shot of him just running away. And I'm laughing my tits off.
I was gonna say it doesn't incapacitate him. It doesn't make him drop down to the ground. He gets a. It looks like they poured like what is it, baking soda and vinegar on him, and he's running away.
Oh, and I just the shot stays on him, and he's running away. I might have to capture that and make it as a GIF and just spam our social media because it's so damn funny. So okay, now I'm at this point. I am watching that clock in the corner of the YouTube video, and I'm like, here we go. 4 minutes left in the movie. We're
And
gonna see some
again,
serious shit.
bear in mind the movie's called "The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy." We're 4 minutes from the end, and they haven't shared the frame of the screen yet.
Nope. So okay, by the time he stumbles down the staircase to this thing, the here's the battle, right? And it
Battle?
is
Don't you mean prolonged hug?
yeah, it's a little bit of slap fighting. Yeah, yeah. So basically the tide is in the favor of the robot, shockingly, right? And again, I might just have to isolate the sound or something, but the soundtrack to this end is just "Uh, uh, uh," for 3 minutes solid of just the
While again,
mummy just doing that.
while again we cut to a bunch of people staring slack jawed watching it.
Right. So it's leaning towards the mummy's going to kick some ass here. And or
You mean the
no,
robot?
excuse me, the robot, right? And oh, by the way, our heroes got the cops involved because there might have been a kidnapping subplot here again. Who could give a shit? The cops show up. They shoot the controls out of the bat's hands. He just backs up into the corner. And oh wait, actually, one more thing. In this, there's like a fifth laugh. Okay, maybe I'm starting to warm up to this movie. When the our heroes were kidnapped by the bat, right? And they were just standard Bond villain thing of like, hey, we're gonna go do this thing, and I'm gonna leave my incompetent goons to watch you. Don't try anything funny. As soon as they leave, our hero and maybe the angel break out, knock the guns out of the bad guy's hands. If you watch in the corner, the sidekick is beating the shit out of this
Yes.
guy. He punched him to death. I'm sure of it, right? You don't
Well,
just
I know.
wail on an unconscious guy in the ground.
Again, I noticed that, and the commentary that went along with it from MST3K was gold.
All right, I got to go back and at least watch these few scenes because, you know, he flat up killed that dude. But okay,
Oh yeah.
so
But
now that
my chuckle out of that came like right after when they come rushing out and the police are already there, and the one guy is just like, "So go arrest those two men in there," and the police are like, "Okay," and they run right in.
right,
I don't know
tell me
why. I
was
don't know why. I don't know why I found that funny. I just did.
So, did they mention like the or do a "Let's kick some Aztec" line in the Mystery Science Theater? Because
I,
there's an
yes,
opportunity for that in
there
here
was
somewhere.
a kick Aztec line, but I can't remember when it was.
I'll take that. By the way, the better Aztec Mystery Science Theater movie is Puma Man or Puma Man.
Hmm.
That's one of the best ones. I love it. Okay, so the remote control is gone, and now it just turns into a rout. The mummy just wipes the floor with this thing. Literally, at some point, it's a guy in his horrible suit. And then this is the other genuine laugh of the movie. The guy in the suit just disappears, and the mummy just knocks this thing to pieces. And it's
Hmm.
rather funny. And it's at that point, this was a minute, 2 minutes of screen time. The mummy turns and then just kills the bat. That's the end, pretty much,
Oh
right?
no, you forget the important end where the lady tells the mummy to go
Oh,
back to the sacred hiding place of the ancestors and guard the treasure forever, or whatever the fuck she says.
piss off. Yeah, I mean, and then that's it, right? So, Matt, do you recommend this movie?
I mean, I wanted to come on here and say yes because it's a I love a good piece of Z grade cinema. Honestly, though, I did have some laughs, but nothing happens until the last maybe 15 minutes of this movie. And even then, like I said, the movie's called The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy. That's the last 2 minutes of the movie. I'm not kidding. It's the last 2 minutes of this movie. If you must watch it, I definitely recommend watching the MST3K episode on it. It's all for free on YouTube. Knock yourself out. But God, I wanted there to be more crazy shit, but this is just kind of boring.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like ultimately there's like I highlighted the funniest moments, and it's like if I could timestamp them, if I could give a crap, put that up. It's like watch these couple moments in the YouTube, and that's it, right? Beyond that, the movie I think is largely. I mean, it's not offensive by any means. It's just so. boring and short. You don't get like the true absurdity of like the birdemics and like the true like the rooms, right? There's not enough there to make it like the true like I'm gonna get drunk and watch this and riff it with my friends per se. There's plenty more better movies than that. So no, there's nothing really here. But
I mean,
in
even
this
even something like the not the '80s remake, but something like the original Blob with Steve McQueen. That just is like a piece of jelly attacking a bunch of people, but at least stuff is happening and it's crazy and zany and kind of fun, you know?
So, as bad as that robot is in this movie, would it not be a more entertaining film if that robot was just all over this thing?
Yes.
Right?
Uh,
Give
when
us
I
what we
hear,
paid for.
well, that's the thing is when I come to see a versus movie, I want to see a versus movie. I did not like either of the Alien versus Predator movies, but I got way more bang for my buck out of those two in terms of
Oh boy.
versus.
Yeah, I would take those over the Prometheuses of the world. But okay. So, Matt, here's the thing. In the spirit of this movie, I'm going to make every effort to get this podcast over that 60-minute
Okay.
clock. So, here we go. You mentioned it. When we did in our previous podcasting life, we did the Deep Space Nine review podcast, Upper Pylon 2. I think realistically, most of our listeners are going to be familiar with what we did there. And one of
Right.
the things I was most proud of in that is when we didn't like something, we as a group, you, me, Chris, Blair, we would always try and like, how would we try and fix this?
Yeah.
Right? Of like, and I hate like criticism, film criticism, like of the Star Wars crowd or the Lord of the or Game of Thrones crowd. Oh, I hate this. Why? Well, it's stupid. Okay, explain it to me. And I think both of us professionally, we're in careers where if you criticize or go against something, you have to back that up,
Yeah.
right? So here we go. In my effort, I wanted to go into this and go, okay, here's the constraints. I have this title, The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy. How would I make a maybe, let's open it up for debate, better version of this? And I wanted to look at this because we would like redo knowing our characters in Deep Space Nine. That felt wrong for Quark. He
Right.
would do this and we would talk about that. So I wanted to approach that with like our characters in hand, but I would sit there for I I worked on this for an embarrassingly long amount of time. I would sit there and think about the bat and I'm like, you know, F this. There's nothing here. Right? So pretty much rewrite if we were to make this movie today called again The Robot versus the Aztec Mummy. Let's vamp here a little bit. Dig on this. Give me your feedback as we go through this one. So,
Okay.
okay.
First question is: are we still making this as if it were a part 3 in this series?
No. Reset. Reboot.
Okay.
No flashbacks. Starting out fresh, right? And to that point, here you go. Title card. Opening 1421 AD, you know, Aztec Empire. Got your thing on the screen, right? So I didn't go to the point of like truly like all the characters and all that. This is the broad scope. Here's your like your pitch, right? So we have our emperor. You know, there were emperors. I did as probably as much Aztec fact checking as the writers of this did. There were emperors back then, and you have your princess, right? The
Yes.
princess to the emperor. We'll call her that. What was it? Oxidal? I forget what her name
Zochi.
was. Zochi, sure.
Zochi.
So she is betrothed to a warlord, and there were a bunch of warlords.
Yes.
A prominent warlord's son, and the emperor needs the support of this emperor, right, through this arranged marriage. But one of the house guards to the emperor, Popica, is a sworn, you know, guard of the house. Him and what's her name?
Zochi.
Zochi. Of course, they make eyes with each other. And she starts like they start having this affair. This whole thing, by the way, the early part, 20 minutes of our
Hmm.
film, right? They start obviously having this illicit affair. She is like not wanting this royal life. She doesn't want to be, basically the prize for this, who, by the way, shock of shocks, is a scumbag, the son of the warlord, right?
Oh yeah,
You know,
naturally.
you can yeah, of course, naturally.
No.
So they are having this relationship, and she's like, I want to get rid of all these jewels, all these kingly jewels, garbage. I don't need this. I just need you. So he
Hmm.
gives her a very common person's like bracelet or something, a
Right.
commoner's jewel, right? So
But something important to him.
exactly, right, to them, to them.
Right, to
So
them.
this relationship is ultimately, of course, discovered, right? um I would imagine it's going to be a friend of the warlord's son. And in a fit of jealousy, the warlord's son kills Zochi. Right? Crazy.
Hmm.
The emperor finds this all out, right? Of course. Oh no, we're going to be going to war. You broke Popica, you broke the oath to the family. You'll never break another oath to defend this house. You're sentenced to defend Zochi for all of eternity. And here, if you
Hmm.
remember, I do have a real mean streak in me and some torture kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
what he does is he entombs Zochi, right? Covered in all of her royal jewels that we know she doesn't like. And they put him alive into the tomb with her. But in the tomb is
Mm.
like a chute where, waste can be crapped out and food can be put in, right? So they're going to torture him by making him stay alive in there, right? For however many, for whatever. They're going to feed him and he's going to crap out, right? And as the last stone is being put into place, as the light's closing out, you can see in his hand, Popica has the bracelet, right? He has it with him. And then as it's closed, lights go out, you see out of the waist chute the jewels. The famous ones, because he's just there of her. She doesn't want this, and their afterlife together. She never wanted these rich jewels. He gets rid of them.
Hmm.
Okay, smash cut, present day, right? Present
Good
day now.
opening.
Th- I was a little proud of that, right?
There
That's
was
the
a
heaviest bit of writing I've done.
there's drama, there's intrigue, there's
Tra-
sacrifice.
Tragedy, right? Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, you got everything. 25 minutes. Shot on location. Good stuff, all classy. So now on location, present day, we have an archaeological team comprised of, chief archaeologist, let's say three, PhD postdoc students with him. You have yourself a biologist, and then you have your tech team. You got your tech team with them, right? And these are the ones doing like the ground penetrating radar. You have your tech lead, and then I'm thinking here, this is going to be your surprise lead actress, where you're going to think like the lead is like the archaeologist or the hunky, with a little bit of stunt casting
Okay.
maybe in here to make you
So
think
so
that like the
so kind of
postdoc
like
is the lead.
kind of like Ripley in the first Alien, where you think Tom
Right.
Skerritt's the lead.
Yeah, you're burying the lead, right? So one
Hmm.
of those characters. So in the telling of this, the biologist, they find this chute, right? It's coming out of like some old ruins, kind of buried into a mountain, blah blah blah. And the biologist looks at the pile of like basically fossilized waste. At this point, the jewels aren't there. Presumably, those were stolen. That's another misdirect. The movie's not going to be about the fancy jewels. So those are long since gone by some grave robber. The biologist looks at this pile of waste and has been like examining it, and they're like, there's like multiple seasons worth of seeds in here layered in. And the idea
Hmm.
is we as the viewer know, oh shit, Popico was alive in there for years, presumably, right? And you do a
Right.
little bit of extra horror, okay, something there, but they have no idea what that really means. So they want to go, because the top of this is like all collapsed, there's no way in. They need to get up into that hole. So our tech team, they whip up a little bit of a robot to go up this tube, little camera, a little bit of a drone action, right? They go
Drone.
up there.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
So they go up there, and I got 10 minutes left to get to that 1 hour. We're going good. They go up there, and through all the webcam stuff, they can see, oh, there's a fossilized dude and remains there. And they kind of look around, and it's like, there's no fancy adornments, there's no major jewels. So they're like, huh, this is kind of a weird oddity, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, there's no royalty here. Custom is they would do this. And by the way, this gets around the mummification thing. They just see a super desiccated corpse in there. And we know it's Popica, right?
Right.
And they're like, well, there's nothing we can do here. It's a 4-inch diameter shaft, but the robot picks up this little bracelet that's in there. They're like, okay,
Hmm.
well, let's bring that out. It comes down, they all look at it and they're like, well, this is kind of interesting and whatever, but it's nothing. So they just take it with them, right? Uh-oh, funding's up. Let's take off. And at this point, you get a shot of the bracelet being handled about by the whole team. Every single person in it just like touches it, right? So,
Uh-huh.
okay,
I see where you're going. I
we
think I see where you're going with this.
not, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to make any claim that this isn't all just 100% cliched stuff too.
No, but you and
Right.
I are rewriting a movie that we're still calling Robot versus the Aztec Mummy. We can rely on some
That was my
cliches
rule.
here.
Right. And it's the mummy. All these mummy movies are basically cliches, right? It's the
Yeah.
same damn story. So, okay, now we cut, and this is where I wanted to get like a
We're just
little
gonna
fun.
cast interesting people. That's gonna be our thing.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's some room for like, some off type, like, the robotic, tech lead, like not like a super bombshell, but like, not like the super nerdy thing. You can play with the stereotypes here, right?
Hmm.
There's room for good casting. So this is where I think you can maybe get a little bit fun with this, but like, they go up, they're based out of like a university up in New England. I was thinking Miskionic University, or what's the Lovecraft one? You could get really silly here. Who knows,
Now,
right?
are they are so? But the tomb that we're talking about would be somewhere in Mexico, no? Because that's where the Aztec Empire was. So are they on
Yes,
some sort of
right.
field expedition?
Yep, yeah, their funding's
Okay.
up. That was just their field expedition. They came back with a
Okay.
whole bunch of artifacts.
Okay.
So
Okay.
as
I
they're
get.
as they're doing the research of this, they notice like, okay, you know, who cares about this? This is a dime a dozen. Our funding's a little short. Maybe we should just auction off some of these bits of nonsense, right?
Mm. They don't
So
need to know
it
that
goes
it's a commoner jewel.
right. It's just a common. Well, no, even if you do, it's just, well, these are like, you want a bit of the
Buried.
Aztec Empire,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whatever. So here you go. It goes off to an auction house, and then that's sold. Somewhere in here, we get that shot of, meanwhile, back in, current day Nicaragua, somewhere down there,
Central
Mexico, depending
America.
on where.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Central America.
right. We see that pipe and just kind of maybe dust coming out of it. And
Hmm.
we don't know what that really is. What it is it's the mummy changes into dust. I'm trying not to steal too overtly from the
I was gonna
mummy,
say
Brendan Fraser's.
now you're going full Emotep.
What do you want from me, Matt?
I
Again, I'm
know.
not making claims here. So okay, we got that. The mummy is loose and it's looking for revenge. So the here's where it's like, let's just, we all see where this is going. Let's just move it along. So the bracelet is in the hand of whoever ended up purchasing it. I don't know. This is the only casting I kind of thought. I'm a big fan of Jean Reno. I want to get Jean Reno into a
Yeah,
movie.
let's get. I like a good Jean Reno role.
Right, Frenchman with a little bit of walking around money in New York. He wanted to buy a authentic Aztec thing. So you see that he's in his nice apartment. Doesn't nothing too crazy. The mummy arrives. It's been flying in dust on the wind. It arrives, and you get your first mummy kill, Jean Reno, right? And he desiccates Jean Reno. He doesn't come back. This is
Nice.
where we're not playing with, Imhotep's coming back. There is no grand theme other than just revenge, and he wants his bracelet, right?
Hmm.
So at this point, he has the bracelet, right? And he's got the jewels back. And it's like, oh, where is this going? Then he goes and kills the auctioners. And you're realizing, oh,
It's whoever
you're
touched
starting
it.
to maybe, it's whoever touched it, and he's working backwards.
Hmm.
And now you're thinking, Who was the first person to touch the bracelet? It was our lead as she took the robot out of the pipe, right?
Hmm.
So she was the first one to touch it, therefore she would be the last one to get killed by the mummy.
She, yeah,
So
she's gonna be our final girl.
right. So working backwards now, the auction house gets it. And then the entire archaeologist team gets it, right? That's like 5 6 people, however many it was, in one fell swoop. At this point, a rash of desiccated murders starts, like, people are starting to notice, right? At this point, the team knows. The biologist starts to piece this thing together, right? And it's like,
Hmm.
I like characters who are smart. They can kind of start figuring this out, and they know this is I don't know how, but it's connected to this, and they're like, oh, the bracelet's in there. So they start talking about it. They're like, oh, this can't be true, there's a mummy, right? Maybe a little bit of that stuff of like a little bit of the breaking the fourth wall of like, oh shit, we're fighting a mummy, right? It's like, how are we in a zombie movie? People recognizing it, right? So
Hmm.
they call a Zoom meeting, right, of the biologists and the tech team, the remaining people. In that call, because this is modern day, the tech people see the mummy kill the biologist, desiccated live on Zoom, and it's like, oh fuck, oh shit, oh fuck. They're freaking out, right? So the senior scientist guy, he just pisses off and just goes on the lam, right? And at this point, our hero starts realizing what is happening, and she's like a little bit cool and collected. And somewhere in here, of course, the tech lead dude, he gets killed too. And now it's down to our hero realizing, oh no, it's just me. How do I fight the mummy off? What are my skills? I know how to make robots, right? Here we go.
Hmm.
So, cut to a robot making montage. She hatches a plan, right? I've got to get that bracelet away from him. You can't get near him because the mummy will desiccate you, right? So I have to create this space with the robots. So I'm here. I'm thinking, like, are you familiar with those Boston Dynamic robots, the ones that can, the
Oh
dog
yeah,
ones with the
the
inverted
one
knees?
the ones that were dancing to "Do You Love Me" or something like that. Yeah.
Absolutely right. We got all of them. Turns out maybe she was working with Boston Dynamics. Maybe we can
Okay,
get
so
them in.
we're actually going with. I'm glad we're clarifying this. So we're going with full robot this time, not this cyborg half baked bullshit.
Nope, none of that. True robots, and we'll have a spectrum of them. So she has like the dog one, like mummies, fire. I'm gonna put a makeshift flamethrower on
Flamethrower.
this thing, right? And then you have the human shaped ones, and basically her plan is, okay, how do you fight supernatural evil? Maybe somewhere in there on the webcam Zoom thing, the biologist tried to fight it, and it was impervious, right? So she's like, this is basically a bit of like Terminator, Mummy
Hmm.
versus Terminator, that kind of a thing coming in. So she has her array of robots. And because she is up in New England, I'm going to think Maine. I'm going to be fun. I was just up in Maine. I went by Stephen King's house. It's in my brain. She's up on the coast of Maine. Let's have some fun. So her plan is, okay, his first priority is going to get to this bracelet. So can I get the bracelet away from him and get that away from me using robots? Stay with me.
Okay.
Robots have to get it away from her. She gets it in. The idea is it will get into like a robot like boat. It will go out and then sink. How the hell is a mummy that can go to dust going to get to the bottom of a bay, right? So
Hmm.
okay, here you go. However the hell this works, you have your robot fighting mummy sequence. And the mummy's stupid. It's confused. It's from 700 years ago. It doesn't understand what robots are. So you got some fighting. There's a whole lot of fun, a whole bunch of gags. We'll work it out. Let the
Yeah.
special effects department
I
handle
was
it.
gonna say it's thrown off guard because it's so used to just touching or fighting someone and having it immediately desiccate, and this one's not desiccating.
Bingo. Perfect. Yes. So the robot, one of them does get it, and you have like the robots running, they're getting away, dust is coming in, blah, 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 a bunch of like changing back and forth. It gets it into the boat, it goes out, it sinks it, it wins. And then what you see is the mummy just turn to dust and just kind of dissipate over the bay. right? Just this little
Mm-hmm.
inlet. And then she's like, huh, okay. Did I win? And, she's, great relief. Fade to black, denouement, right? Cut to indeterminate amount of time later. She has, graduated. She's accepted a faculty position somewhere out west. She's packing up her laboratory and she leaves. Cut to on the inlet, you see an old man in a rowboat just rowing over the water. Cut to him getting desiccated. Cut to black. The mummy is just there
I love
protecting
that.
the bracelet over the water.
We have
Mixed
our.
ending.
I
Yeah.
know. No, it's like no, it's like we have
Open for a
our care.
sequel.
No, it's like we have our Carrie ending. Her hand pops out of the grave in the dream, sort of thing.
Yep. So I do want to say, right when I said cut to black, we hit 1 hour exactly on the recording. So, oh my God, I couldn't be more proud. We got
I
it
know
over.
that is you know what? First of all, I have to say that was so impressive. That I mean, yes, working with some cliches, but you know what? It would make a perfect like mid 2000s era movie.
Oh,
What we
you're
just
right.
wrote.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. I don't know. Jennifer Love Hewitt's
I'm
maybe a little too on the nose, but yeah,
I'm
it's in
trying to
there.
think of who it would be in 2000. Maybe Kristen Bell when she was still in her Veronica Mars days.
I don't think this movie's good enough for Kristen Bell, but yeah. I mean, I'll
Well,
say
no, but
I'm proud of
this is
that.
back when she was on back when she was on UPN. This is good enough for a UPN star.
I'll take that. But I will say this took, usually I'm listening to podcasts or something on my commutes home. The past half a week was me sitting in silence just thinking about this on my commutes home of like, no, 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 that's shit, that's shit. What can be a little bit better, but also a little
No,
shit?
I gotta
And
say that
this is what I settled on.
that was awesome. I feel completely inadequate after that, but that was so much fun. And the only question I have is what heavy metal Creed Stone Temple Pilot song do we put over the end credits?
Oh yeah, we need some fart rock for this for sure. So yeah, all right. I again, listeners, we haven't been good about saying how we can get in contact. I'll put it in at the I'll make sure we talk about that when we really sign off, but let me know. Let's workshop this together. Like maybe we can pitch this. There's something here. So, Matt, should we call it good on this one? I think we did it
Yeah.
to death.
No,
All right.
I think the movie we just made up was. I mean, it's not even made, and it's already a better movie.
Thank you. That means the world to me. So, okay, let's put this to bed. Let's look forward to November. All right, Matt. So, did you look at our list of movies? You have your
Yes, I
selection?
do. You
All
want to
right.
narrate our choices as you always do?
I will. So here we go again. The first one right off the bat, the random number generators. This is again showing I'm not playing with this because these are the first 5 things that could be anywhere close to like a movie that are in the realm for discussion. So first off, from 1969, nice. Keep Off the Grass, a 21-minute short educational film about the dangers of marijuana are outlined in this educational short film.
Yes.
Sure.
The sequel to Reefer Madness.
Which you might be trying to one up me now with my like, how do I turn that into a good movie? But I will say, please don't pick that one because there's no physical media version of that to buy.
Oh
So,
no.
but
I mean, it was an entertaining choice, but I'll just go ahead and say right now it's not that one.
all right, we're good there. Next up, 1953's Trouble Along the Way. A famous football coach uses underhanded means to turn a bankrupt college team into winners. Starring John Wayne and Donna Reed, for what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, 1937. Bulldog Drummond comes back. An old enemy kidnaps Bulldog Drummond's fiancée. That description makes a lot of assumptions, like I know who the hell Bulldog Drummond is. But there you go.
It's gonna
Again,
well obviously the with the title we're dealing with another in a series of movies.
very likely, again, a nice brisk 58-minute mystery suspense film. 1951's Royal Wedding. A brother and sister musical team find romance when they tour London for Elizabeth II's wedding. Genre musical. Fred Astaire. And then
I,
finally,
I know
oh, go on.
it's Fred Astaire, but where the hell's Ginger Rogers? Why isn't she in this movie?
Can't have everything. And then finally, 1979's Brilliant Career. A proud young woman in in early 20th century Australia must choose between marriage and independence. Sam Neill.
Sam Neill. This has
Mm.
to, yeah.
So, not to say I have a favorite, but I kind of like the idea of what would be our most newest movie. Sam Neill, I'm a sucker for him. But that would be my selection.
Uh huh.
I might go out on a limb and say we haven't done a musical. I'm feeling it
True.
might be Royal Wedding from you.
You say that it wasn't going to be Royal Wedding, but now you have me debating because we haven't done a musical yet.
We have not.
Uh,
I don't want to bias. This is totally your pick, right?
that that being said, though, I kind of when we do have a musical, I think I would. I don't know if the subject matter is something that necessarily interests me, although I do like Fred Astaire and Jane Powell. But my pick for next month, well, first of all, I wanted a palate cleanser because I enjoyed watching this movie and talking about it with you, but I wanted to go back to actually a movie. So that's why I'm not choosing the marijuana short either.
Thank you.
My choice for this month is purely based on the director and the cast involved. Yes, the whole cast because they're all entertaining, at least to me. I went with Trouble Along the Way.
Oh, that's a bit of a surprise.
Trouble Along the Way. John Wayne, he not the greatest person in real life, but I never been bored by any of his movies. We already know I love Donna Reed and Charles Coburn. I mean, it's in like Flint, man. So I mean, and also too, Michael Curtiz. We're talking about the director of Casablanca and Mildred Pierce.
Oh, yes, you're right. I didn't really put that together. You're absolutely right. All right. Well, I'm
So
excited for that now.
critically acclaimed director, famous cast. I've never heard of it, but it sounds like it could be fun. It's the con man movie of the 50s. So I think it'd be interesting. I don't know. Maybe I'll regret this and wish we did the musical next month, but it sounded interesting to me. I like the director and I like the cast. So Trouble Along the Way is November.
It feels like there should be a couple of check boxes when we go through this. Hitting a John Wayne movie feels right. So I can't
Yeah.
argue with that. All right. So, as I alluded to earlier, we've been remiss with talking about how to get in contact with us and keep the conversation going. We have a nice numbers in listenership. So, thank you, everybody. But
I'm
we definitely
I'm
like hearing from you.
I'm pleasantly surprised with the numbers that we have in listenership. We started this podcast and we were going to do it anyway because we just like doing this kind of thing. But the fact that there are people wanting to listen to us talk about these movies is awesome. So thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, I mean, we can see the raw numbers, which are very nice. The funny thing is, it doesn't follow with social engagement, and we would love to hear it from everybody. So, by all means, like, start
Pitch
tweeting, like,
pitch
shoot
your
emails.
pitch your own
Yeah.
version of the Robot versus the Aztec Mummy, or better yet, cast our movie that we just wrote.
Oh yeah, excellent point. So the way you can do that is I can pretty much guarantee you I'll respond to every email and put a lot of thought into it. I'm more than happy to keep these conversations going. You can reach us in the email at tcmchallenge, all one word, at gmail.com. We can also be found on Twitter at tcmchallenge. We're also on Facebook, same names, TCM Challenge Podcast, the Matt and Matt TCM Challenge Podcast. Pretty easy to find us there. If you want to reach out to me just directly, I can be found at ProSubZero on Twitter. Again, just tons of movie nonsense. I read a bunch, sports, video games, kind of all over the place, pop culture things. So feel free to reach out to me there. Matt?
And you can reach me on Twitter at mhansen0207, HANSEN. Always on there, willing to talk with anybody about pretty much anything.
All right. And with that, I made a bunch of effort to make scary intros and outros, which in retrospect is not fitting for this episode.
Which
But
is,
with that in
but you know
mind,
what? It's awesome because normally I try to take us out with some quippy line or quote from the movie we just watched. There really isn't one for this, so I'm just gonna look into the camera intensely, slack jawed, waiting for you to start rolling these titles.
And I'm Matt in Buffalo.